want you to understand, some brothers and sisters, that we're in a time where the world is changing. If you look at it, there was a time when a black man could not walk in a bank with a mask on. Now a black man can't walk in a bank without one. The world is changing. It doesn't matter what demographic background you come from, you need to speak up when there's injustice. I find it ironic, and I have nothing against my Asian brothers and sisters, but it's amazing that these Asian attacks have just begun to become public in the last 60 to 90 days, and already they have passed legislation when we've had lynching bills on the Senate floor for years, and we can't even get one lynching bill passed. I need somebody to shout, follow the blueprint. Because there are people that don't like you just because of the color of your skin. There are people that don't like you that have never even had a conversation with you. But we need to follow the blueprint of Jesus. The blueprint of Jesus is that we as a people sometimes will get upset. And if you push us, we may have to turn over some tables. Do I have a witness in here? But throughout all of that, if we don't allow the love of God to be the center of what we do, we will never see this world heal. We will never see our communities come together. I need you to holler at me one more time and shout, follow the blueprint. He set such a beautiful example for you and I think that it's time for us to now stand up and be the people that God has called us to be the leaders that God has called us to be. It's a gift to have influence, but it's more influential to use your gift to bless somebody else. Somebody just shout one more time, follow the blueprint. And I want to take time out to say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Where would we be without you all? Come on, can we salute the mothers that's in the room? I'll leave this jewel with you. The Bible says that a wise woman, can somebody shout, a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one tears it down. Women, you need to understand that our families can't make it without you. Men can't make it without you. Smart men can't make it without you. So today we pay homage to you, and we want you to know that we celebrate you guys all year long. You are our queens. You are the ones that provide strength and support for us. Can we just clap our hands one more time for all the mothers and shout, follow the blueprint.
All right, brothers and sisters, if you're at home, I want you to put your hands together. If you're here, I want you to get on your feet for the president and founder of the National Action Network. A change ensemble. Thank you, Change Ensemble. Right now, brothers and sisters, get on your feet and put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. 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 Fist bump the person next to you. Tell them you love them.
Never give up. Never give in. No change will come. Keep it down with it. Troubles and trials won't last always. With God on our side, nothing but pride. My sister, hold on, be strong. A better day is coming and it won't be too long. Yes, strength will come. Strength will come. Yes, will come. Starting with you. Your faith will come. Your faith will come. Starting with you. Your faith will come. Your faith will come. Never give up and never give in. Your change will come. Keep faith down within. Troubles and trials won't last always. With God on our side, nothing but pride. My sister, hold on, be strong. A better day is coming and it won't be too long. Yes, change will come. Change will come. Change will come. Your change will come. Will come. Your change is gonna come. Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Your change will
National Action Network Change Ensemble. Give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live at the House of Justice, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue in the Village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and for you that are watching on live stream at nationalactionnetwork.net, we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. And certainly we are giving on this Mother's Day weekend a hand to all of our mothers, particularly Mother Gwen Carr. I'm going to get more into Mother's Day in my message. I want to also thank all that have spoke already
Pastor Jason Hendrickson did a great job. Give Pastor Hendrickson a good hand. And I want to say that we have had several of our candidates. Brad Holliman spoke earlier, and of course Alvin Bragg has spoke, who is running for DA. And we let everybody that is running have something to say, and people make up their own mind. In fact, Derek Perkison, our Northeast Field Director, is setting up a series of debates over the next few weeks that I'm going to moderate here at the House of Justice so people can see. And people can see and hear for themselves. Some have already made endorsements, some of us later, but you still have 5 weeks. Everybody needs to vote, and everybody needs to know what the issues are. One of the things, though, that is near and dear to our heart is that there is a lot of focus on National Action Network's attention on police reform, but not on our advocacy and commitment on gun reform and gun violence and gun reform legislation. One of the most, in my lifetime, one of the most traumatic things that I've dealt with is not long after going to Minneapolis to do the eulogy for the funeral services of George Floyd. I came back to New York and we saw the killing of young 1-year-old DeVell Gardner Jr. And I preached his funeral. And to see this young baby in that casket and done in our community, one to another, a mother and father robbed of a 1-year-old baby. We've got to fight the external violence and the internal violence with the same passion and commitment. And on this week, there were those that were arrested and charged on the murder of young DeVell. And we have, his parents came and we stood with them when it happened. We stand with them now. They're here this morning. Won't you come up? The mother and father of DeVell. Come on up. Who can come? Give them a hand as they come. Come on, show them some love. And let me tell you something. It may have been out of the news until the arrest, but it'll never be out of the news for this father and mother. And to think she's got to go through Mother's Day tomorrow, thinking about what happened. And this father thinks about it every day. And we are going to stay with this family just like we stay with the families of police victims. I don't know, do y'all want to say anything? They just here with us, and we love them. Ray McGuire, who's running for mayor but said outside of his mayoral race, stepped up and said he wanted and did help the family. Ray, why don't you have a few words about it? Ray McGuire.
Thank you, Reverend Al, Mother Felicia Gordon, Bill Gardner Jr. Sr., we're here with you. We stand with you. The National Action Network, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice anywhere. No justice, no peace. Thank you for always being that North Star that keeps this community together. There is no stronger bond than he from whom all blessings flow, no stronger bond than the bond between a mother and her child. My dear 95-year-old mother calls me every day, and because of what has happened in our neighborhoods, while we celebrate Mother's Day, we must also on this day celebrate that young life. And so we stand with you, and that which I was fortunate to do is that which Reverend Al Sharpton always does, stands in the gap on our deepest times, our darkest moments. So know that I commit to you, when I become mayor, that we will do whatever we can to make sure that no father, no mother ever have to experience what you've experienced. No justice, no peace. So we stand with you, and I'm going to ask the Reverend to do what my mother does for me every night, and ask for me to do over my family, and ask for you all to do over this family. And those of you who are folks of faith, they say, pray the blood, pray the blood. So we stand with you in prayer. We stand with you in celebration of Mother's Day. We don't know your pain, but we know your victory. So we stand here victorious and in prayer. May his grace continue to keep you strong. And may each of the mothers out there hold on to that which grace gives you, that unyielding bond that he's gifted us with, which now we mourn. And now I will let you know that I keep this wonderful momentum with me in recognition of the gift of the Val Gardner Sick Jr. Thank you for being here, and may grace continue to keep you.
Give the family a hand. God bless you. And give Ray McGuire a hand. Let me say, by way of announcements, it has been already stated that today is National John Lewis Good Trouble Day, dealing with voting efforts. And Derek Ferguson, I believe, has already announced that we're participating starting at the Harlem State Office Building, I believe at 2 o'clock, and going from there. Let me also say that the city planning scoping meeting on the complex they're building on this corner will be on Monday from 2 on, that you can view it at, and we handing this out on in the back so you can view it. That's for those that want to comment on the development that they're building. They're building, a black family owned this corner for decades. And the father died, and the daughter sold it to some developers, as we see going on all over Harlem. We met with the developers and said, we can't tell you what to do, you own it now. But we want to keep the House of Justice here and build our museum here. And we negotiated with them. We also said that we wanted to see black contractors used and see what they were doing with the space. They're building some condominiums and affordable housing. And they bought the whole square block here and the one across the street. Let's welcome our Impact Television family. Now, there are those that are misinformed. That's why I'm taking time on the radio, that I'm building a complex. We are negotiating, just like churches, to make sure with all of the history of Nan right here, that the House of Justice can stay no matter what the complex is, and our museum. And we negotiated that they use some black contractors and the stores they're going to put in, and they have affordable housing. Now, as you look around, there is nothing on this block but us, the pizzeria, and the bodega. They're not displacing anybody, so putting people in is not a bad thing, as long as they're going to respect the community. But people run around misinformed, trying to bolster their council races, that I'm building something. First of all, if I was building something, I'd announce it and tell you, but I do not have the money to build. Ain't nothing wrong with me building. Let's get that straight. But let's be real clear. Don't let people play games with that. Y'all know, people, you know, Attorney Hardy showed me little things. I don't be looking at the little local stuff, Ray, but when he showed me somebody distorted it, I said, well, let me correct it on the air. Because, you know, I keep telling y'all, rabbit hunting ain't fun when the rabbit got the gun. Y'all know who you shooting at when you shoot at me. I ain't gonna win every fight, but I'm gonna fight every fight. We also are real engaged in the police matters around the country. On Monday, I did the eulogy at the funeral services in North Carolina, the Elizabeth City, of Andrew Brown Jr. What is still an insult to me is that they will not release the body camera footage to the public or to the family. They let the family come in and see 20 seconds of the footage. Now, first of all, they claimed they had come to arrest Brown. An arrest warrant is not a death warrant. If he did something wrong and is going to be arrested, he's tried in court. He's not killed. But then they say that the shot that caused his death, the family had an independent autopsy done. And the shot that caused his death went through the back of his head and 3 shots on the back of his shoulders. Police are only to use deadly force when there is life-threatening circumstances. How could somebody running away from you be a threat to you? So that is why we stand with Andrew Brown Jr.'s family. Before I can get out of Elizabeth City, fast enough to get back as we continue to fight for them, Reverend Toon, our field director, and others staying there. We then get word that Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of the murder of George Floyd, they had put in a petition to get a retrial. They want a second trial. And part of their argument was that, one, there was too much publicity, pre-trial publicity. Second, that they should have changed the venue. And third, that one of the jurors had attended our march on Washington last August. Well, first of all, the publicity was caused by Chauvin putting his knee on his neck. Wasn't like George Floyd was running around trying to get publicity. Secondly, to change the venue, where were you going to change it that anyone had not seen the murder of George Floyd? Everybody around the world saw that tape. And thirdly, to say that because one of the jurors had come to the March on Washington, which was the anniversary of Dr. King's speech, where we talked about all the cases. We didn't just talk about the Floyd case, we talked about all the cases. Breonna Taylor's mother was there. Ahmaud Arbery's mother and father was there. All the cases. And we didn't get specific on any case. How would that prejudice a juror? How do we know that somebody in the jury didn't go to support your police rally? Does that mean they want Chauvin's side? This is a failed attempt to try and redo something that I don't believe the court will even listen to. But you know, they have this expression, be careful what you ask for. Because 2 days after they asked for a second trial, the federal government announced they indicting him. He gonna get a second trial now. He's not gonna get the second trial he wanted. But now he got a federal trial. Charged federal on civil rights charges, and the other 3 with him that didn't stop him, that didn't help George Floyd. There's now federal civil rights charges against Chauvin and all 3. That is a victory for those that voted and brought in a new Justice Department. Let me be real clear about this. We asked the federal government to come in on Eric Garner. They would not do it. We asked them to come in on Michael Brown in Ferguson. Wouldn't do it. Asked them to come in on Sean Bell. Wouldn't do it. So to see this Justice Department come in after there was a conviction, Attorney Hardy can tell you that in many cases, if the state has moved forward, they'll back up. They came in anyhow, which is because people like you that have set a climate in this country with the rallies and the marching and the persistence to let them know that you've got to establish at the highest level of government that we will not tolerate criminal behavior from policemen. So 2 points on that, Pastor Hendrickson, is all of the naysayers, and I hope some of y'all listening to me in the beauty parlor, that ask why y'all marching and why y'all voting. Well, this indictment answers both. If there had not been the protest, the federal government would have not felt the pressure to even look into to see if there was grounds. And if we had not voted to get a new administration, a Trump Justice Department would have never indicted policemen. You want to know if it counts? Ask Derek Chauvin as they bring him from the state jail to the federal courthouse where the vote counts. See, so folks just always, you have some people that, you know, we got all kind of people come to the House of Justice, all kind of people watching for Nan. Some are Baptists, some are Methodists, some are Pentecostal, some Catholic, some Muslim, some Buddhist, some just contrarian. Your religion is you just contrarian. Whatever somebody do, you contrary to it. And you cannot be contrarian and make progress at the same time. Sometimes you got to just decide to go to work and get something done. And that is what Nan is about for 30 years. I was in Alabama yesterday for TOPS, my brother's ex-offenders program. Things that last long is if you are getting something done. I can't tell you how many activist grassroots group that I've seen come and go in the years I've been out here. And many of you that are here today have known groups that just don't last. We represent the people. We speak for the people. And a year later, you can't find it. I'm the grassroots. No, you're the dirt. We're the grassroots. Because something dirty about you. that you show up when everything is hot and emotional. But what about when the cameras are gone? What about when it's no longer trending? Hashtag activism is not activism. It's marketing. It's branding. You branding yourself, posing to be chosen. Folk got real pain and real suffering out here and need to be treated in a real serious way. I'm telling you, and I went into it last week because I was disturbed and still am about this whole notion about whether this is a racist society, racist country. Let me tell you something. You are fighting a real belief. This is not some slogan. There is a real belief among many whites in white supremacy. That's real. They've been raised to believe that they are superior, passed down from one generation to the next. Let me give you the facts. Barack Obama was an exceptionally qualified person, raised by a white mother and grandparents, had a black African father. So he knew white as well as he knew black. Went to Columbia University, went to Harvard, was the first black to be the editor of the Harvard Law Journal. Went to Illinois, worked in the community as a community organizer, ran and was elected to the state legislature, then went from there, was elected to the U.S. Senate, and from there ran for president. You couldn't have got anyone with better credentials. When he ran, though, here's what they won't tell you. In 2008, Barack Obama, with all of that, only got 43% of the white vote. When he ran for re-election, after he brought the United States out of a recession, after he saved the economy, after he put affordable health care up there, it went down. He only got 39% of the white vote, which means white America, the majority of white America has never voted for a black to be president. You want to talk about racism? Explain how the majority of whites has never voted for that. Okay, let's come on to now. 2020. Joe Biden runs for president. Has a black woman on his ticket as vice president. Majority of whites didn't vote for him. The majority of whites voted for Donald Trump. Let's go to the record. In 1964, Ray McGuire, when they were going into fighting for the Voting Rights Act of 65, Lyndon Johnson, who was president of the United States, said, if we pass this, and we should, we're going to lose the South for the next generation. He was wrong. They lost it for the next 2 generations. Wow, look at that. The last Democrat to win the white vote in this country was Jimmy Carter in 1976. Whites have voted majority Republican since 76, from Reagan on. Clinton didn't get the majority of the white vote. John Kerry didn't get the majority of the white vote. Dukakis didn't get it. We are living in a society that has been taught that the thing that validates you is not your economic standing, not your social standing, but your whiteness. would 58% of white women vote against a qualified white woman like Hillary Clinton? Well, I'll tell you why. Clinton was qualified, Clinton was a woman, it would have broke the glass ceiling. But Trump appealed to that we are going to be in a couple of decades a minority here. And you do not want to be a minority in, quote, your country. That blacks and Latinos are going to take over. I'll build a wall. I'll do this and that to protect your status as white. Because what validated them was they was raised to believe no matter how poor you are, no matter how much you didn't have health care, no matter how bad your environment was, at least you ain't one of them. I was riding around Dothan, Alabama with my daughters yesterday. Went down there for my brother. Went to put flowers on my mother's grave. And I looked at the conditions in the rural South and the way they con their own to live in some conditions that people would not find appealing. Is they say, you at least a white, you could have been black. And they use us as the pawn to deal with whatever they're trying to do. Whiteness has been the thing that has been the string in this country's history. Here, let me give you an example. When they founded the country, the elements they started with is we find these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Well, first of all, when they said all men, they were talking about all white men with land. They were not talking about all men. When people be talking about live out the creed of the country, you know, you're talking about live out the rhetoric of the country. Because they did not mean that all men were the all men. They didn't mean black men. Black men were slaves by law. So don't forget now, we were brought here. That's why Mitch McConnell and them are trying to get Project 1619 out of the schools. We brought in 1619 enslaved. They didn't even form the government till 1776, which means we were already enslaved longer than they had formed the government. If you read, I keep telling y'all, one of the best books I've read is Wilkinson's book on called Caste. She argues, and it is a fact, that pre-U.S., if you lived in Europe, if you were in Germany, you were German. If you were in France, you were French. If you were in England, you were British. If you were in Scotland, you were Scottish. If you were in Poland, you were Polish. If you were in Italy, you were Italian. If you were from Africa, you were a member of the Zulu tribe or the Igbo tribe. You were whatever tribe. It was only when you got here that you were either white or black. Once you got here, the rules were if you were white, you could own land, you could have slaves, you could vote. If you were black, you were a slave. Whiteness became celebrated here. That's how the country was built. Now, we can try and bring this country away from racism, and we are, and we have. But don't act like this country wasn't built on that belief, ideology, and tenet. You can't redo the history. Look at the Bible. Y'all go to church, Holy Roll of Folk. The Bible is a history book. All through the Bible, they identify people by their nation. The Babylonians, the Israelites, so forth and on. You don't have whiteness in the Bible. So where you get this from, other than a creation of building white supremacy to try to make legitimate owning others, and therefore having others build you into an economic power that you don't have to pay them. Anybody can get rich if you don't have overhead. If you would open up a business tomorrow and don't have to pay no salaries, no rent, nothing, you couldn't fail if you tried. What made America rich is unpaid labor. How did they justify the labor? How did they justify not paying them? Lloyd Williams here, the head of a Harlem Chamber of Commerce, he knows business. They justified it by saying they are less than human. They were created to serve us. So they went from an economic exploitative policy to where they created a false theology that God made us like animals. And the white preachers preached that. They had to make us subhuman so they could justify why they didn't have to pay us for human work. Got so bad they went into the legality. They put in the Constitution, we were 3/5 of a man. Well, now there's been a lot of discrimination in America. Yes, there's been anti-Latinos, there's been anti-Asians, there's been anti-Semitic, and we're against all of that. But we're the only ones that they put in the Constitution that we were only 3/5 human. You don't tell a lie on me, I won't tell the truth on you. That's the truth of the matter. So what we are facing and fighting and dealing with today is generation to generation to generation of ingrained white supremacy. But that's part of the fight. Here's the other part of the fight, Ray McGuire, that we've got, is that as they taught their children that they were superior and we were less than human, the real problem is that some of us believed it and taught our children that. Bad enough for people to call you less than equal. It's worse when you accept it. Slavery was a cardinal sin, but adjusting to being a slave is also a sin. And there's a biblical reference to that. There were slaves that were fighting Moses all the way to the promised land. So we've had the double battle of fighting whites that felt they were superior and fighting blacks that had felt they're inferior. And how you bring down white supremacy and raise up black lack of self-esteem at the same time is a yeoman's task. Raising your children that you ain't gonna be nothing. Raising your children. You don't need to go through all of that school and stuff. You can't get that kind of job. Accepting being less than everybody else. I remember when I was a kid and they come out with the Black Power era. I don't know why y'all talking all that stuff. And now they're raising their kids, raising our kids, with a diet of black low self-esteem. Just about every sitcom on television got you selling dope and being a gangster. And if that's what your child watches, that's what your child will aspire to be. Turn on the music, every record calling you an N-word and a B. Accepting that. How did Nebuchadnezzar make everybody bow down to the false gods? You come out of Church of God in Christ Ray, he used the music. The edict was that when you hear the music, then you bow down to my God. And when they played the music, and the music was playing and they wouldn't bow, then it was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that wouldn't bow. Well, what are they doing today? They made the music of inferiority, music of self-degradation, music of calling you names, music of putting a rhythm to low self-esteem. We have got to stop playing into trying to convince our children that they ain't nothing but an N-word. Our children is of value and can do anything and everything that anybody else can do. That is why we've got to address all these things. One of the reasons we fight around these questions of policing and these questions of gun violence is that we want to have people understand the value of our lives is as equal to anybody else in town. And you can't value life if people can shoot up with babies like DeVille in a crib or in a stroller. If you value their lives, you would not even think of having gunfire around our babies. If you valued our lives, you would not even think of a policeman putting his knee on your neck. One of the things on this Chauvin indictment is they not only indicted him for violating civil rights with George Floyd, they indicted him for holding down a boy a few years earlier that was 14 years old and hitting him with his flashlight. Which means that if the Minneapolis Police Department had dealt with him then, he would have never been available to do that to George Floyd. That's why we fight. Because our value of our lives, we cannot accept ourselves to be less than equal to anyone else.
True. Tell it.
And I'm going to tell you something. You cannot serve God and disparage what God has created.
Well,
I know some ministers, well, I don't get into all of that. Well, you can't get into nothing. God created everyone equally and out of his own dominion, not separating them based on color or based on nationality or based on gender or based on orientation. We have, in our own ignorance, start talking about, well, women should do this or men do that. Women should do whatever they can do. I remember when I was growing up there, well, we don't want no women preachers. Well, then you got to throw out the Book of Ruth. You got to throw out Esther. I mean, how you going to have a Bible full of God using women, and you gonna decide. You gonna decide. That part you ain't going with. I remember when I said publicly that we wanted to support everybody's rights. If you have a certain lifestyle, that's up to you, but you don't have a right to put your lifestyle on others. And people, got mad. What you talking about, Al supporting gay rights? Like y'all don't know gay folks. I did not learn about gay folk in Greenwich Village. I learned that in the church. And everybody knew who the gay folk was in church. If you could tolerate them in the church, how you gonna turn up your nose outside the church like you don't know what that is? They separate us on our foolishness rather than we fight together based on what is right and fair for everybody. That is why the challenge that's why I was saying all of the candidates, we're letting them come through all of what is going on. Because we are going to face some very serious times in this city in the next several months. Coming out of this pandemic, we are going to have to recover a city that, and the cities around the country watching me, that have been shut down and has closed half of its small businesses, lost a lot of jobs. You saw the jobs report that came out just yesterday, where the unemployment did not recover at the rate they wanted. You're going to have people that know how to advocate and manage at the same time. Because if they can't manage, you can't bring back cities that don't have the skill of knowing how to do that. Let me tell you something. They're talking about we're going to open up New York by May 19th. Well, half the businesses are not going to open up because they're closed.
Yes, they are.
You can't open up people that are out of business. Because many of those small businesses particularly, that's why I'm fighting to make sure that we get all the small businesses we can around here if they're going to build. Because many of those businesses could not survive because they were existing on a week-to-week basis in the first place. Why? Not because they didn't have business acumen, but because they didn't have business access.
Yes.
What I mean by access, they could not go and get the same bank loans.
True.
They couldn't go and get the same home mortgage loans. I was riding around like I told you, Dothan, yesterday. I'm looking at all these banks. Wasn't that the folks down south didn't have good sense? They couldn't go to the local bank and sign a note and buy a farm. By law, they wouldn't give it to us. Up north, they didn't have the law, they just denied it to you. Whites could walk in a bank with an idea, and they would finance the idea. Many of those that started this tech revolution, they just had an idea. And folks backed it. We don't have access to that kind of capital. And when we did start building people, like the Robert Smiths and the Chuck Phillips and others that had money, and Ray, that would invest, they tried to act like any black that was successful was distasteful. Goes back to your inferiority of believing you're a slave. That you can't have rich blacks, they must be doing something wrong. I mean, think about that now. There is no community in the country that resents its successful people other than us. Because we were taught to be slaves. Tell it. I went the other week, Minneapolis, to the end of the trial of Chauvin. Many of our black millionaires and billionaires support Nan, and said to us at the beginning of the George Floyd situation that they would provide transportation for us. So they let us use their private plane. Me and Gwen Carby sit up on private plane like we own the plane. But they do that because you are challenged during the pandemic that you can't travel as easily as the routes and all of that. So we going to get on the plane. One of the folks shot and put on our social media that we were going on the plane. Went crazy all over the internet. Why is Reverend Al in a private plane? And then some folks answered back, well, you know that, first of all, you would not question any other TV host, former presidential candidate, getting on a private plane if it was his own private plane. But when you got a psyche that you are a slave, I supposed to have been in a cotton field rather than a private airstrip. I was supposed to be trying to do something crazy, like paddling through a canoe, I guess. I mean, they got guys at Fox TV that own their own plane, that host a TV show. Hannity got a plane. But I should ride a plane, because that is how we have been psychologically beat down. So, to be black and successful, you either a sellout or a crook. To be black and go to Harvard, you either a Tom or something else. But if you white and successful, you smart, and you brave, and look at what they do. And if you white and go to Harvard, oh, he's going to be part of the new established order. That's white supremacy too. That's black inferiority too. Why should we be ashamed of our successful folk? We ought to say, despite all they went through, they made it anyhow. We need to be clear that we are not going to apologize for black success. And I'm glad that God blessed me to grow up that way. I wanted to tell the folks, but Dominique told me don't even respond when they was going crazy with me with the private plane. But I grew up on private plane. James Brown owned the plane in the 60s. I grew up with a black man owning a plane. I ain't had $2 in my pocket, but I was flying private and black. But if you've been reduced, one of the things that we have got to do is get our community out of this inferiority complex. I may never be able to get every white that believes in white supremacy out of that. And I am not saying all whites do. I'm saying the ones that do. But I certainly going to try to get all the blacks out of this inferiority complex. We elected a black mayor named David Dinkins in 1989. How many years ago was that? That is 31 or 32 years ago. We have not elected a black mayor in 32 years in New York. Now, I'm not saying every mayor had to be black, but I'm saying in 32 years, you're going to tell me no black was qualified to run the city? 32 years. A third of a century. And you couldn't find one black that could do what was good for the city. Well, Dave Dinkins was defeated in re-election, went on and kept serving in the community, and died with dignity. He was defeated by a lawman named Rudy Giuliani. Well, look at what happened to him. I ain't got to finish the sentence. Rudy was a lawmaker that is now getting raided by the offices he used to run. That's why I didn't grow up with inferiority complexes. Mother's Day weekend, that's why I give tribute to black women and black mothers. Because when my father left, I had a mother that raised me to be and dream and stand up and be whatever I dreamed of being. We were on welfare, had to get food stamps. But Mama taught me, don't judge by that. Life is not about where you start, life is about where you're going. And raised me to be somebody. Brought me to Reverend Jones Church where they was rallying, Jesse Jackson, I am somebody. That is why when I got older, I would not subject myself to being treated with worse education. My mama raised me better than that. I would not subject myself to being brutalized by police and letting it go. My mama raised me better than that. I would not subject myself to listen to music that called me a nigger. My mama raised me better than that. I would not subject myself to people defining what I could do and where I could do it and who I could be. My mama raised me better than that. I stand up for George Floyd and Eric Garner because my mama raised me better than that. I'm going to stand up to protect my right to vote. I don't care how many state laws you change. I'm going to stand up anyhow. My mama raised me better than that. We've been raised by strong mothers that took nothing and made something happen. Raised by strong mothers that looked at their children and said, I'm going to make sure they have a better life than I have. On Mother's Day, this ain't about flowers. It's about remembering those mothers that had to go and serve other folks' house, but then come back and provided a home for us. There is nothing more sacred. There's nothing more worthy of admiration than black women that birthed their children and raised them into being what they became. I'll never forget the sacrifices, the pain, and the uplifting of our black mothers. Mother's Day. You don't know motherhood till you see a mother that puts things together that don't even fit and make it work anyhow. like I told you, when Daddy left and we had to move back into the projects for a while and went on welfare, Mama never said that she didn't have money for food. She would just find all kind of ways of making meals work. I remember I used to go to school and I'd have a sandwich ready and we'd have a banana sandwich. Mama would slice a banana, put some mayonnaise on the bread, sprinkle some sugar. I didn't know that wasn't a gourmet food because Mama wrapped it up just like it was a prime beef thing. Mama made things work. Never missed a meal. Never went to bed with a dirty sheet. Never had to want something that I needed that she didn't provide. You don't know nothing about a mother till you got a mother that'll have runs in her stockings, but have enough to make sure you had pants and a shirt to wear to school. She'd rather have runs in her stockings and put the money on you not to be disgraced in school. I was raised better than that. That's why I can stand up to Donald Trump. That's why I can stand up to Mitch McConnell. That's why I won't back down to nobody and nowhere. I was raised better than that. I was raised better than that. I was raised better than that. That's why I could proudly stand yesterday at my mother's grave and tell her that I did and continue to do the things that she praised me to be. It's a bad day for you that have not lived up to your mother's expectations. But my mother used to love that song, Beams of Heaven, As I Go. I can hear her singing it while I looked at my mother's buried there in Neville, Alabama, near Dothan, and she's buried next to her mother and father. And I can look at 2 generations ahead of me yesterday in the graveyard and say that I didn't back down from the principles and values that they imposed in me and put through me. Sometimes you need to think back where you come from. The Bible talks about Matthew, the 1st chapter. The first thing they did with Jesus is bring him back to David. David was 1,000 years before Jesus. 42 generations between Jesus and David. There was 2,000 years between Moses and David. Now that's all in the Bible. We've been here just 400 years. If Jesus can go back 42 generations in the Bible, most of us can't go back but 2 or 3 generations in our lifetime. Go back further than that and go back and see what they brought us down from, and you'll know where we've got to fight to get back to. That's your Mother's Day gift. To return to the regal and the state of empowerment and enlightenment that we always was born to be. Beams of heaven, as I go through this wilderness below. Sing that for me one time.
Beams of heaven, for as I go through the wilderness below, guide my feet in peaceful ways, turn my midnight into days. When in the darkness I would grow
and soon from all life's griefs and dangers I shall be free someday. Burdens now may crush me down, disappointment so around, trouble speak in mournful sighs, sorrow through a tear-stained eye. There is a world where pleasure reigns, no mourning soul shall roam its plain. And to that land of peace and glory I want to go someday. I do not know just how long it will be, or what the future holds for me, but this time I know if Jesus leads me, I shall get home. I shall get home. Good God of the Almighty, I shall get home someday.
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. We want justice. We want justice. We want justice. I'm opening the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today attends our rallies, watches it on television, hears it on radio, but never became a member of National Action Network. There's not a better weekend than Mother's Day weekend to come and join this organization. If you're here today and not a member and want to sign up, just come down to me and we'll sign you up right now. Come on. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. One last time, y'all. Everybody now. Everybody's singing. All right, we're going to raise our offering, and then I got flowers for all of the mothers. I want all of the mothers that are here to get a flower from us. If nobody give you Mother's Day flower, I'm gonna give you one. And then we want everybody to act accordingly. Again, let us keep in prayer our families of those mothers that will go through Mother's Day without their child. Gwen Carl's here with us this morning. Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon's mother. Michael Brown's mother. The mothers that now are going through it. Dante Wright's mother in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. And don't forget the Gardner family, DeVal. They're going through Mother's Day without their 1-year-old son. And others. Let us stand for them. All right, let's raise our offering. They say Pastor No said there was a guy outside intoxicated, making a lot of noise. He don't need security, he needs some coffee. Y'all know how to act when y'all drunk. Just get him some coffee and let him lay up against the car, drink coffee. He'll be all right. I have cousins get drunk all the time. Y'all run around all getting security like it's a red alert. Get some coffee. Black coffee. Don't put nothing in the coffee. Give it black, make him drink that. He'll be all right. He'll be in here joining in a minute. All right, I'm going to raise our offering moving quickly. I need about 10 people give $100 or more. Guardians, $100. Ray McGuire gave $100. Welcome Committee, $100. Minister Winston Gilchrist, $100.